Aaron, I don't know if you wanted to say anything. You missed our last meeting when we started on Article 3. You're the expert here on Article 3, and if you have anything to add to any of the things we're going to go over, um, please speak up. I'm assuming the law department will speak up too whenever they've got something. And the same thing with you, Richard. If you got something, just let us know. But I can't hear you now, Richard.
But you can't hear me now?
Now I can.
Okay.
Yep.
How about now?
I gotcha.
Okay. The president's office introduced a charter amendment last night over the redistricting process. So it supposed to wait work up on it. I should see the first reader maybe tomorrow. I suspect straighten out the mess caused by Dorsey's amendment to allow generally overrides to the next regular meeting. But the law department interpreted that to prevent the president from calling a special meeting on the override of the redistricting bill, as a result of which they couldn't have a vote on it because the next regular meeting was outside the 60-day time for changing the mayor's plan.
That sounds complicated. We've got that section we're going to be reviewing, I assume today.
Right.
And I did see the newspaper article this morning where the suggestion, I guess the amendment would be to eliminate the veto for a districting plan.
Right. There's I think 3 different aspects of it, and I guess it's not much to restate it when we get down to it, but there is no mayoral veto of the available on these under the proposed charter amendment. The time frame for when the redistricting plan proposed by the mayor is due much earlier, whereas right now the mayor's redistricting plan is only due before February 1st of the election year. So to put it in context for everybody, that the mayor's redistricting plan would have been on time if it was submitted now, whereas we did all that back in the fall. But it moves the charter amendment moves the time for presentation of that redistricting plan back to the July following the publication of the census. So it's all around the census time period, but puts it closer in time to when the census is published rather than right up against electoral calendar. And it also mandates public hearings. So it's the 3 things: moving the time frame back, removing the mayoral veto, and mandating public hearings.
Yeah, I guess we're going to see. I guess when we have a draft bill, I guess we need to circulate that. Aaron, can you take?
I can circulate that if we want to circulate it to this committee.
Yeah, we will need to see it. I mean, and I'm assuming this is a short chapter, and that is a complicated piece of business there. And I suspect that could be significant. So we'd like to see that as soon as you can produce it, Aaron.
And I'll say there's also another charter amendment that the president introduced in early December or maybe late November that changes the overall rules for how mayoral vetoes will work. And the 2 changes there are currently the mayor has 3 regular meetings, to veto or to take action on any bill, to veto or sign. This shortens that time to 2 meetings. And the other issue that makes the changes in this charter amendment is to what Richard was alluding to before. The council will have the authority to take up a veto override vote during a special meeting of the council. So as it currently stands, the charter only allows the council to take up a veto override during a regular meeting. And, you know, so what played out in the redistricting process is that they ran out of regular meetings in the 60-day window. And so they couldn't take up an opportunity to even consider overriding the mayor's veto. Now they'll be able to, with the amendment, they'd be able to call a special meeting to consider an override vote.
So that is in committee now, or has that already been adopted?
No,
It's in those. They're both in committee. They haven't been assigned. They haven't been scheduled for hearings yet, but they're in committee.
that was a real strained construction of the Dorsey Amendment that it,
Okay, well, look, before we get into it, let's go ahead. If you guys can take the roll and see what we have. We may not have a quorum for this committee, but since everything is informal here, we're not taking a formal vote on anything. I'm going to keep on going with the meeting no matter who's here. We'll go ahead and take the roll. And as people are added, I know Elena is trying to get on and she's saying she's having problems. So if you see a telephone call, it may be Elena.
I'm looking I'm keeping an eye on the attendees because phone users seem to pop up there, and I don't have anybody there right now. She might need to, if you're texting with her, you might tell her that it might be better for her to call in, because I know I tried to use my phone to follow the Legistar link, and that didn't work, but but calling in worked.
Yeah, I sent her the call-in number, but I also gave her the password for being a panelist, and that didn't work. So that's the last I got from her. So she has the number.
Okay.
I don't know where it is.
Like you said, I can go ahead and take the roll right now. So we've established it. Victor, you're here. Established that Julianne Montez de Oca is here.
Yes.
I see Roger Hartley is here. You should be able to unmute yourself. Let's see.
Yeah, present. Thanks.
Oh, great. Let's see. You said that Matt Stegman is not able to join us?
Matt Stegman and Kathy Christian are not going to join us. I'm looking for 2 other committee members, Davon Love and Emily Levy.
Right. I don't see Emily Levy. Is Emily Levy here and I just don't see her?
I can text her.
Okay. And Davon Love, I don't see him on either.
Doris Autopilot.
I think that's Miss Doris Minor Terrell.
No,
Are you in on 2 devices, Miss Terrell?
they are in consecutive order, so that's possible. The autopilot.
My autopilot is on. I'm here.
Okay, great. And so you're in sort of
You're
2 spots here.
Yes.
And so with that, Victor, as you noted, we don't have a quorum for this meeting, but that does not prevent this committee from meeting. It just prevents the committee from taking formal votes. So as I read on our agenda, the purpose is to continue reviewing Article 3 of the city charter and presentation and discussion of proposed charter amendments. So by the Open Meetings Act, we are, good to go to have the meeting and continue with that agenda, as long as there's no movement to vote or anything of that nature.
That'd be terrific. Let me before we jump in. I mean, we've got a couple business items that aren't on the agenda, but we've got what I would like to do is have a meeting after this point every other week from this weekend on. So the next meeting is I've already announced that would be January 18th. That's a Thursday. It's 2 weeks from this Thursday at 6 o'clock.
Okay. You should be aware of the 18th, we just announced last night for a bunch of executive appointment hearings, including the city solicitor. So
Would that be on the 18th, Richard?
yes, the 18th.
Okay, we can move that because that's a Thursday.
Right.
I was doing that because I'm traveling to come back from Florida. So I'm going to try to move that on to the 17th. That would be a Wednesday on the 17th.
Okay.
And I at this point,
Vic, I know it's
yes.
me, but if you move it to the 17th, that's when my day job of commission meetings is going to be all day. So I will be absent that day.
Okay, I have you, Julianne. We're gonna, this is going to be an issue. And if I'm home, I'm supposed to be home on the Tuesday, which I could probably do, assuming I show up in time if I don't get hung up. So I'm going to try to, I'm going to do a little poll then and see who's going to be around and see what day we can do this on. And so it'll be 2 weeks, either Tuesday or Wednesday. And I'll try to make it happen, Julianne, so you can attend. We need everybody on board if we can.
If you do later than 6 o'clock, I could be good. It's just I predict my meeting will go until 5 or 6 o'clock.
No, I appreciate that.
And it starts at 10 a.m. So
Wonderful. Yeah, I gotcha. It's terrible. Okay. I've made a note of that. So if we do that, if we do it every other week, we really have got about 4 meetings after this one, which is tight. We probably have, out of the 3 committees, we probably have the less material to review, at least in the existing charter. But as you heard, if you were here at 6 o'clock and we were talking about the amendments that are here, they're complicated. And I'm assuming we're going to take a look at that. And I see your hand up, Julianne.
I'm sorry to keep talking. Emily just texted me back that she's trying to get on as soon as she can, but work ran over late.
Okay, thank you. So we've got 4 meetings here. As I say, we probably have the least. And I see we have Ernest Lee here, whose roll hasn't been called. Hello, Ernest. Nice. I'm glad you're here.
Hello.
Yeah. And do we have any other commissioner here?
I think Doris Minor Terrell is.
Oh, Doris is not part of the committee. Right.
She's on the commission, but not this committee.
Right.
Bernard Brown is on.
Well, welcome, Renard. Are you on the commission? Or are you visiting? What's happening here? Mr. Brown?
I sent a request to unmute.
I'm just visiting. Thank you.
Good. Okay, good. I thought I was hoping I have all the commission members and then that I missed you as part of a commission member. But yeah, we're happy that you've joined us and see what you might want to contribute. We will have at the end of the meeting. We will.
While we're catching up on roll, there's a phone user who called in, and I've elevated to panelist. The phone number begins 410-274. I've sent a request to unmute, so if you could just let us know who you are? I think you might need to press *6 to unmute yourself.
John Willis.
Oh, hello, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Willis.
Okay.
have you.
My video home computer thing, I'm missing a password or something, but I sent a message to Nina. Maybe she can help me for future meetings.
Okay. So we've got you down along with Ernest Lee and Doris Minor Terrell.
Okay, so back to our agenda. As I said, in terms of what we have to review, we have 2 more chapters. This actually is a short chapter. We could probably get it done tonight, at least the written material that's sitting in front of us, but not the amendments that are on the table from the council at this point. So we'll probably need to take those up the next time around. The next section is Article 10, which is the Office of the Inspector General. That was put into the charter the last time we did a charter review back in 2018, I guess it was. And it was amended, I think, recently. And then lastly is the, I don't remember what the section is, but it is the Charter Review Commission. So I don't know how long that's going to take, but that's not a lot of material. So I'm thinking that we've got at least four meetings ahead of us. I'm hoping we can get it done. We have the time that we have, and we'll try to make use of it. We have a couple proposals on the table so far for amending Article 3. One is that the president of the city council, hold on. The president of the city council be elected by the body instead of at large. And also a referendum provision. And I know the law department was looking at the referendum provision, but I don't know what their conclusion is, what their conclusion is at this particular point. Even if the law department says that they think it's illegal, that we can't do it, doesn't mean we can't propose it. It just means that it's a hurdle. So we want to be mindful of whatever they say, and we'll have a discussion about that. And my thought is, before we leave Article 3, we'll get back and talk about these particular amendments, so we have an idea about whether the committee wants to support them or doesn't. Roger, you were the mover for the election of the president of the city council. Does that sound okay to you? Do you have more to say about those issues?
Absolutely. Totally okay with me, and totally okay with the committee to weigh in on whether they would want to move that forward or keep it around for consideration or not. I'll be brief. Just as a reminder to everyone, I did provide this in writing, and I tried to provide what I thought were some strengths and a little bit of rationale behind it. But from the top of my head, I'll say that there are other cities in the nation where a president of a council or a leader of a council is not selected in an at-large election by the whole city, but it's actually selected by the membership itself. I saw some strengths to this, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to propose it, is not to disenfranchise citizens of the right to choose someone, but more from the standpoint of representation and efficiency in government. There's the fact that this would give city council members the power to select someone from their own to lead them, and also provide them with a little bit more, I don't want to say control, but a little bit more influence over having legislation that comes from the council have an opportunity to be passed by the council. It in some minds creates a couple barriers to I guess good government or efficiency in government, I guess I would say, because you end up having city council members elected from representatives all across the city those representatives may come together and come with an idea, but then they have to present it, or at least have the council president on board. The council president doesn't necessarily represent them. He or she represents the entire city and the voters who elected them. So they're not necessarily going to be on the same page, and it leads to a layer of sometimes friction, but also additional persuasion that has to be done from council to get something forward. Then, of course, you still have a powerful, strong mayor system of government that I've kind of opened up a conversation on separately too. But you still have that power as well. So essentially, for something to get done from the legislature, our council, you've got the council that has to have a vote and agree, but also get it passed or through, or the support of a council president plus the mayor. And that deadens, in my opinion, the effectiveness of council to be able to legislate. And it may even, in some cases, deaden communities all across our city who may want something done, but may not be able to get it on the agenda through a council president. So those are some of the things that I was thinking about. It's not out of character with other cities. It's not a wild idea. Other cities do it. And I just thought it would be an interesting thing to add as a conversation for the city and for us to consider. I realize we're in election season right now. I want you to know that this has nothing to do with my support or non-support of any of the terrific public servants that are leading right now. It's really, to me, a good government proposal and nothing more.
Under the proposal, would it be the body would elect annually a new president, or would it be a 4-year term, 2-year term? Would you have something in mind for that?
Well, thank you. That's a really good question. I had not thought that through, and I had not explored what other cities had done. I can see that annually could be maybe a little bit burdensome, but perhaps if others have experience with this and think annually is a fine practice, I'd be willing to, take that into consideration and or even support that. I always wonder if it were annually, you would have so much potential turnover of that position to where the council may have difficulty being effective itself in its own governance. Of course, they could choose the same person again, too. So I hadn't thought that through. I'll be honest with you, Victor.
Yeah, that's good. I know there's administration that the president's office does, and I don't know how that messes up the administration. And Aaron, you would know more about that stuff. Yeah. But I mean, it's on the table, and we're going to come back. I forgot that you sent stuff, and I think you sent stuff just at the last meeting, and I didn't get a chance to read that material. So I apologize for that. But I'm glad you put it in writing, because we're going to need that, and probably we need to circulate it again, just to make sure when we have a full discussion about this particular issue, about where the committee wants to go, we're going to have those pros and cons, I guess, in front of us to see how we might want to take this on.
This is probably time. This is John at the university. It's probably time to raise this question. It's an interesting idea, Roger. But my first is, well, what other cities have the form that you're suggesting versus cities that have what we have now? It'd be really nice if we had a comparison table of the, top 30 cities, or the cities with between 500 and 1 million or something like that. So we could have an idea of whether Baltimore is mainstream or are we out of the mainstream.
No, thank you for that, John. I really appreciate it. And everyone, John's a dear colleague of mine. So I have not done that level of depth of research. I've just noted that other cities do have councils that select their own president or leader, if it's not called a president. But I agree with you. Having that kind of data would be certainly more persuasive and also helpful to this body in recommending. I also imagine that it's going to be different by type of city government, for instance. So if they have a council representative format or a weak mayor system,
Right.
they may then have a different type of setup for their council, as you can imagine. So I can see that this could get to be quite a research project, but maybe I can do a little.
Well, but I
sleuthing.
don't think it would be that hard. And the other thing we could answer Vic's question too is what is the term? I mean, we already have the model of the 5 large urban counties in Maryland that Montgomery, Baltimore, Prince George's, and what is their practice and what's their experience.
Sure.
I just think to fully answer the question, it'd be good to have some comparison and that not just to, try to judge us on our own.
Yeah. No, thank you, John. I really appreciate that. I think that's really
I can
a
help
good
do
idea.
some of that over the next couple of weeks.
Well, let me tell you that I know that we have counties in Maryland that have that form, that the president is elected by the body. I don't know that the charter, we have 12 charter counties in Maryland, the big ones are charter counties. And I don't know that any of those elected, but I know the smaller commissioner counties have some of that, some of them have that elected body in there. That's an easy enough research project. You guys got students, and maybe somebody can do that. Otherwise, I might take a look into it because I used to spend time on these type of issues. So we'll see where we go.
Yeah,
Julianne,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
getting the kids the Maryland data was easy.
I'm sorry.
Julianne, hold on. Let me talk to Julianne.
Okay.
You're on, Julianne.
A quick Google search says that Philadelphia also has a city council where they elect from among themselves a president.
Good. Okay.
Thanks.
Close by.
Thank you. I appreciate you
know
looking
the
into
answer to
that.
that because with whatever document you come up with, the media is going to ask these questions. So
True.
it'd be good for the committee to have the answers.
Okay, Richard?
I looked at it last time for Judge Cole, and you're right about the counties. We're the only one of the 24 counties that elects legislature district-wide. On the national cities, it was about 2/3, about 2/3 elected them in turn, and about 1/3 they were at large.
Yeah, if you could resurrect that research, Richard, that would be useful.
This stuff from the National League of Cities and the conference.
National League of Cities. Yeah, I would have thought they would have done a study somewhere.
Yeah.
You can find that. That'd be
That's
great.
easy. That's easy.
Terrific. Thank you.
They have stuff on that, and there's a lot of stuff on compensation commissions, and
Right. Well, thank you, Richard. Let's if you can grab a hold of them, some of that material, that would be wonderful. And John, or if you guys got students that would be happy to do this kind of stuff, that would be great too. But I understand where that may go.
Philadelphia is a very unusual government, so you want to be careful looking at them.
I think we're good. Let's move on to what we have here, which is we're gonna start on council districts. That's section 7. That is a really meaty article because that's what everybody's targeting with these amendments at this point. Some piece of section 7. I'm going to read it, and if you don't need it to be read, just stop me. But I'm going to read the article, the section, just to see what's there. And as I said, this is the one that's being targeted for amendment, so it's something that we should be aware of. So let me read it. As bad as I read these things, anyways. The city shall be divided by ordinance into districts. And by the way, this is on page 133 in your notebook. Okay. The city shall be divided by ordinance into districts for the election of members of the city council. The criteria in redistricting shall be equality of population, contiguous territory, compactness, natural boundaries, existing council district lines, and the standards established by the Supreme Court of the United States. Redistricting plan. And let me tell you, that criteria is fairly standard, except adherence to existing council district lines. That is something that's not necessarily standard, but it's around. Redistricting plan. That's section B, paragraph B. Following each census of the United States, the mayor shall prepare a plan for council redistricting. The mayor shall present the plan to the city council not later than the first day of February of the first municipal election year following the census. After the mayor's plan is presented to the city council, the council may adopt it or amend it, or the city council may adopt another plan. If no plan has been adopted by the city council within 60 days after the mayor's plan is presented, the mayor's plan shall take effect as the redistricting ordinance. Paragraph D, no member of the city council shall be required to vacate that office by reason of a change of boundary lines of that member's council district made during the member's term, as long as the member remains a resident of the city of Baltimore. Paragraph E, for elections following the adoption of a redistricting plan, members of the city council shall have been residents of the districts they have been chosen to represent since the preceding July 1. So that's what we have for council districts. It takes a while to sort of figure out exactly what's going on in there. But are there any questions that that we could level on Aaron to answer?
I know one issue, but right now it's moved because of the election cycle. But back in the odd year cycles, when I did the plan in 91, it was due up in February, and the census numbers weren't out until April. So I had to do my own census, send up the plan, and these numbers came in, had to make we planned on making adjustments. As it happened, I only missed the count by 14 people. So
yeah, if I recall, the census came out in 2021, I think April, somewhere around that time. Yeah. So this is the election. This is the first council election. After that, we've had 3 years to fool around with this. But
as long as we stay in this election cycle. If we change the years of election, it could be a problem. I proposed the last time around language to first election more than a year after the census data, and on the wayside, and then they changed the year, abolished the RPA election, and knows this census is published December 31st, but the numbers you need to write the plan are called block numbers, and you're probably not going to see them till at least April.
Right. Okay. Are there any questions? Ernest?
But I mean, I'm well familiar with the timing and the availability from the Census Bureau, having done this at the state level and helped out in the city in 2010. But the other issue I thought about, and to be bold here, is there's so much controversy around the country about redistricting. Why don't we create a independent commission and have, and just as a theory, have half the members appointed by the mayor and half appointed by the council, and create an independent commission and get public input into the process, and in an effort to try to remove some of the politics of whether this precinct or that precinct goes in what district. But I think there's a chance here for the city to kind of lead on an independent redistricting committee and solve some of the perception problems that exist around the country. I think we could be a leader here.
It's an interesting proposal, John. Thanks for suggesting that. Are there any? I see your hand up, Ernest. Why don't you chat and we'll come back to John's.
I was going to say the same thing essentially, and the only other thing I will add is that this was something that I took a lot of interest in. I'm not part of this committee, but it was something I took a lot of interest in because in my neighborhood association, the latest redistricting plan split the neighborhood between two districts. Now, whether that is problematic or not is a matter of debate. However, it is something that is very much on the minds of my neighbors, and so I just wanted to say that people were asking, why is this in the control of elected political officials in the first place? So I think that there are people who are wondering this, and I would like to also explore the idea of an independent commission.
Yeah, I think we've got some interest here, and I have the same neighborhood problem too. My neighborhood's being sliced up, and people are very upset about that. So what we need for this is some language that exists in other. I don't know that anybody in Maryland has taken this up. Maybe Montgomery County has, but we need some research on this. And I'm gonna ask staff, and I don't know if that's you, Aaron, or it's going to be whoever may be. I'll talk to John and Aaron, Richard. We probably need some language, so we have an idea of how this would flesh out if we were doing something like this.
There are places to use commissions, and some commissions have been ordered by courts, and that's part of the problem.
Well, what we need is, because we're talking about charter amendments here, so we need language, and the same thing with the proposal to have an elected president. Actually, that language is easier to find, but as I said, because I know where that language might exist, but I don't know where the language for an independent commission might exist that would be used as a model for something that we could put together.
There are some state models for independent commissions. California, Iowa, there's other models around, and as well as a lot of the literature on, I bet you League of Women Voters and others got some proposed language around the country.
Yeah, League of Women Voters often, and I don't think it's going to be difficult to find the language, but we would want to find at least a couple models so we can sort of fool. If we are serious about this, we need to get language on each one of these things, and it's the same thing with Roger's proposal as well. We're going to need language. So I'm going to have a conversation tomorrow with staff to get some of that language, so it's circulating, so we have something in front of us. As I said, time is short, and there's really not a time to fool around with.
Arizona has an independent commission that was
yes.
That was litigated by the Supreme Court. So the text of that commission is right there in public.
That's good. That's very good, Richard. Yeah, that's good to have language that's already been sliced and diced by the courts. That's good.
And I really, because Arizona was an initiative, and the public totally took the legislature out of the congressional redistricting business, because the commission is appointed by the judiciary, and it was real dicey at the court because the Article 3 says the states legislature determines the method of election.
Think about this, Richard, and I've thought a lot about it, but the question is, who appoints the chair? Do you let the members select the chair, or do you let the president of the council select the chair? You know, that's one of the issues with an independent commission who chairs.
Well, I bet you that's been resolved. So we're gonna find out what the options are there. So, Roger, you got your hands up. You wanna talk?
Well, I think your point probably we'll make this really short. I think it will be good to look at some different models. I was going to say that I think this is really interesting, and it's a good idea to explore for sure. I just wanted to add an endorsement that I think this would be great. And independent commissions, I think what I would always like to say is you never take politics out of a process. Often we'll sometimes hear people say that an independent commission is balanced and non-political. Well, they're not, but they're a different type of process that leads to an opportunity for a different outcome and a different level of fairness. And I think what you're proposing, John, really makes sense. This different process can make a difference. So I like it.
Terrific.
The argument has been for years, and I think I first heard it in the 70s, that if you hire academics, the discipline that they get from their fraternities and their peers is going to be greater than politicians get, so you won't see some of the real outrageous results. The downside, and I went through this when Judge Bell, when the Court of Appeals appointed outside experts to draw a new legislative map 2 cycles ago, and they neighborhoods, and they some real abominations. I was living on a narrow street when sides of the street were in different legislative districts.
Yeah. I spent 2 days on the stand in that case, Richard, and they were truly blind when they made that decision.
And the map wasn't that bad. The point, the basis for knocking it down is there were too many out of state, too many multi-county districts. But what they did is when the neighborhood straddled the line, like Washington or Parkville, they put the minority precincts in the majority district. And I never understood what their problem was with that.
We're gonna have to move. So
I could take days on that. I was on the witness stand in front of the Court of Appeals for days on that case. So I understand the issues there, but I think that we've progressed since then, since 2000, with language and some experiments around the country. And I actually think politically it could be a win for candidates and office holders, if we propose something new and fresh.
It could be, but it's also booby trap, so you have to be careful how you do it.
Let's please. I'm gonna cut this conversation off now, and we will when we have language in front of us. This is a serious proposal, and we're going to talk more about it. But we have some more material to cover. So let me move on to less interesting. A lot of the stuff that's coming up is not particularly pithy, but we still need to sort of look at it. So let me move on to section 8, which is about sessions. And I'll read it again. And once again, if someone thinks this is lame, I'm happy to just move and have a conversation, but I'm going to read it until someone says stop. The City Council shall meet annually on the Thursday next after the first Monday in December, and may continue in session for each period it deems necessary. The mayor may convene the City Council in special session when, in the mayor's opinion, the public business demands it. The president also may call the City Council to meet in special session whenever the president's in the president's opinion, such action is desirable, and shall call it into special session upon the written request of 2/3 of its members. Now, let me just add here, there are a lot of rules that we're not looking at. We have council rules that are in another document that talk a lot about special sessions of that nature. This is a sort of just a general outline of what has to happen. And that basically what has to happen is that we have to have a meeting in December, and then everything else rolls from there. Are there questions about, and there could well be a lot of questions on this particular provision because most of it's sitting in the council rules.
My only question is the language is a little arcane about calling of a special session. I think I'd just be curious at looking at some other language from other jurisdictions. I mean, I think the mechanics of it either have the president or the mayor are fine, but I don't know whether the standard, whether the language is, up to date or not.
Oh, and Mr. Willis, I was going to speak up on a little bit of clarity there that essentially what this kind of breaks between this section and the rules that Victor was alluding to. The council sort of has the regular meetings and special meetings, and the regular meetings flow from the schedule that is, essentially every other Monday after that mandated meeting in December through the following year, and any meeting that's called in between those times is a special meeting or that special session. So you're making a point that it's kind of arcane language, that's just making it more plain that we've got regular meetings and special meetings.
The important thing is you designate them as special meetings so they don't count to deadlines that are triggered by regular meetings when I say within 3 regular.
Okay. Any other questions on this section? And I agree that if the language is turgid, it would be wonderful to soup it up, but it's probably not a high priority as long as it's working elsewhere. But I've got a note here that we can talk about Section 8 and reviewing the language. I'll have that conversation with legislative reference tomorrow and see what might be on the table on that. Going to move on to Section 9, floor privileges for municipal officers. And if you recall that on our first session, we are considered to be municipal officers, we commission members. So welcome to being municipal officers. Floor privileges of municipal officers. The heads of departments, municipal officers not embraced in a department, and members of commissions and boards shall appear before the city council if requested by a majority vote of its members, and at other times shall have the privilege of the floor of the city council at its meetings, and shall be entitled to participate in the discussions of matters relating to their respective departments, offices, commissions, or boards, but shall have no vote. In the case of commissions or boards, the president or a member designated in writing for that purpose by the president shall be entitled to the privilege provided for in this section. Any discussion about Section 9? Okay. Moving on to Section 10, procedures, council officers.
Vic, I don't want to slow us up at all, but is there any value in putting in either Sections 8 and 9 a mention of the fact that the city council can adopt rules to implement these sections? To guide people to those rules, because
we have rules coming up in Section 10.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, it's a good comment, but I think it's coming.
Okay, I see it.
Okay, let's see where we go. Paragraph A, the city council may compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as it may provide by ordinance. I don't think I've ever seen an ordinance that penalizes people having showing up, but they can do it if they needed to under paragraph A. B, The city council, by a majority vote of its members, shall appoint from its members a vice president who, in the absence, sickness, or disqualification of the president, shall preside at all its meetings. The vice president shall also be an acting member of the Board of Estimates in the absence, sickness, or temporary disqualification of the president. Vice president. In the case of and during necessary absence, sickness, or the temporary disqualifications of both the mayor and the president of the city council, the vice president shall be the acting mayor. Paragraph D, the city council shall be the judge of the election and qualification of its members, subject to appeal by petition of the party aggrieved as provided by law. Paragraph E, rules. The city council shall adopt rules of procedure not inconsistent with the charter, appoint its own officers, regulate their respective compensation, not to exceed in the aggregate the amount appropriated therefore in the ordinance of estimates, and remove them at pleasure. Finally, the last paragraph, F, the city council shall keep a journal of its proceedings and enter yeas and nays or any question, resolution, or ordinance at the request of its members, of any member, and the deliberations of the city council shall be public. Any discussion on any part of section 10?
The only thing is my point about 8 and 9 and rules, and then I'm not sure that that paragraph you just read, you know, would necessarily lead you back there. And I'm wondering if there should be some kind of language that say they adopt rules or procedures, you know, for the under Article, what are we under, Article 3 or whatever. I'm just worried about the public being able to find those rules that you mentioned that exist already.
Yeah, I get you. I understand you'd like a crosswalk, just some sort of reference back. Yeah.
Yeah.
To rules.
Yeah. It's not just a drafting issue.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Making a note. Okay. Any other discussion about it?
Vic, I have a question about section D.
Yes.
So it says subject to appeal by petition. Where does that appeal go? To the circuit court?
Yeah. I mean, actually, I don't. It goes to one of the courts, and I assume it's the circuit court because that's usually where it goes. Aaron, do you know offhand where that might go?
I don't, and I'm trying to go back to that section just real quick.
If it relates to state law, I think you would find that it goes to the circuit court.
Right, and I would say, based on this language, that because off the top of my head, there's two different types of appeals for judicial review. Sometimes it's where they lay out specific rules and procedures, and I cannot recall the precise name of that one. And then there's other more oblique references, like what we have here, and this would be that latter. Just sort of acknowledgement that the decisions by the council are kind of be that sort of quasi-judicial agency type decision that is generally appealable to a reviewing court, which would be the Supreme or the circuit court.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line, it is in state law at this point, and so whatever that pointer is to, and I assume it would be circuit court because that's usually where these things land.
Yeah.
But
Initially.
with this,
You could add a phrase at the end, as provided by law under,
Yeah, we
laws
usually
of Maryland.
Yeah,
as per laws of Maryland.
I'll raise that. I'm going to raise that with legislative reference. I think they're going to say I suspect they're not going to be excited about putting in something like that. But I'm going to raise it with legislative reference and see where that might go, what they may have to say about it, and make a note of it. And the committee will take a look at that down the line. Okay, moving on to legislative powers. Section 11, the mayor and city council of Baltimore shall have the power to pass all ordinances not inconsistent with the charter necessary to give effect and operation to all powers vested in the city. And I can tell you that it's not just the charter, it's also the Constitution of Maryland and the state laws that we have to be consistent with too. But it's sufficient, I think, at this point, because whether it's here or not, that reference to the Constitution or to state law, we're always going to have to apply. We're always going to have to abide by those. Any discussion about it? Okay, moving on to 12, evidence of legislative acts. This is sort of superfluous. Ordinances and resolutions. Yep.
Excuse me, Victor, I hate to be a pain, but and I'm not sure of the origin, and maybe Richard or some member of the law department would know, but since so much of Baltimore City's law is in Article 11 of the state constitution, I'm wondering if a reference to the state constitution may not be appropriate there. And inclusive with the charter and the Constitution of Maryland.
Having served for 12 years as an attorney in the law department, I can tell you that they would not be particularly excited about referencing back. It would be okay, but it's sort of superfluous to do.
Yeah.
Because it's actually, I mean, really, there's a host of things. I mean, it's not only Article 11, it's also Article 11A. It goes on to the, so there's all sorts of provisions that we can pop in there. Bottom line is it has to be consistent with state law, and we could add that. But as I said, it's regardless of what we have in our charter, we're always going to have to comply with state law.
Is that said anywhere else in the charter about
Article 11A and all that?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there may be in the powers, if you go to Article 2, they do talk about that we only have the powers that are provided under the Constitution and Article 11A. So, but Article 2 is not something that we are in charge of. It's all done by the state legislature, so we aren't even looking at Article 2.
Right.
Okay, moving on to Section 13. Did I read 12? Ordinances. Yeah, no, that's okay. Section 12, ordinances and resolutions of the city may be read in evidence from the printed volumes thereof published by its authority. I don't know if any of that's necessary, but there it is. Style of ordinances. The style of all ordinances shall be it ordained by the mayor and city council of Baltimore. 14, passage of ordinances and resolutions. Every legislative act at the city shall be by ordinance or resolution. No ordinance or resolution shall be passed by the city council except by a majority vote of its members, and on its final passage, the vote shall be taken by yeas and nays, and the names of members voting or for or against the same shall be entered in the journal. Every ordinance enacted by the city shall embrace but one subject, which shall be described in its title, and no ordinance shall be revived, amended, or enacted by mere reference to its title, but the same shall be set forth at length as in the original ordinance. No ordinance shall become effective until it has been read on 3 different days of the session, unless the city council by a vote of 3/4 of all its members shall otherwise determine by yeas and nays to be recorded on the journal, and no ordinance shall be read a 3rd time until it shall have been actually printed or engrossed for a 3rd reading. And finally, the city council by resolution may authorize any standing or special committee to administer oaths and to summon witnesses as to any matters relevant to the investigations of any municipal agencies. Discussion on section 14.
Vic, why is section D connected to this?
Yeah,
I was
you know,
gonna comment
yeah,
on section D there. That's
Go ahead.
caused no shortage of confusion because a lot of council members and people in general get the impression from that section and others, maybe in the rules, that the council can basically swear in people under oath, but that is not the case. And certainly the council doesn't have authority to say hold someone in contempt of for any penalty for refusing to show up and things of that nature. So that section D is a little tricky.
I have to say, we can use summons. We've got a provision that allows us to use summons, and I'm not quite certain how all that how that dovetails to what we've got in D, Aaron.
Okay.
Right.
It goes back to the 90s, a conflict between then Councilman O'Malley and Mayor Schmoke. And the real problem was they issued a subpoena that wasn't complied with, and the question then came about the enforceability, where they went and did they have jurisdiction. It went all the way to the Court of Appeals, and by the time they got there, it was moot. Professor Hartley, can you hear me? You said you were having trouble. We okay, huh?
We can hear you.
Okay. It went to the Court of Appeals, and argument was going back and forth, and then Bob Carwack, he said, when do they get sworn in? And it's a week out. He said, well,
This is the law department has spent some time on this, and I wasn't the person who spent that time on it. Hillary was, and she's not here.
Yeah.
So I might have that conversation with Hillary, because I find this to be a little confusing myself. And I know we do issue subpoenas and we do a bunch of stuff like that, and we have all sorts of authority when we issue subpoenas. Oaths,
Actually,
of
Vic,
course,
Vic, I am here. I was able to log on.
Oh, hello, Hillary. Look, we're struggling with D here. So what can you tell us?
So D is usually like you're allowed to swear somebody in under oath so that they can, their testimony would be sworn testimony, which really doesn't help you unless you end up basically be used to impeach that person in court later, basically. You were sworn to tell the truth and you didn't do that, so you'd be subject to perjury in court if you said something different in a different setting. It's not that, I don't know that anything, I don't know a time that would ever really come up, but D would allow us to, would allow the council to swear people in so that their testimony's under oath. But again,
yeah, so I've never seen it, right? I mean, I've never seen in the years that I was there, I've never seen anybody get sworn in by the city council so they can talk to them during a council meeting.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think it's pointed more towards investigations. Like if you're investigating a municipal agency, so then you're asking a person to come in before the council and swear that something did or didn't happen, whatever. I'm trying to think of what this could be, but say the city council wanted to investigate some accident that happened at an agency, they would bring these people in and they could swear, and under oath the person swears, yep, this is what happened. as Aaron said, it does get a little tricky because under federal constitutional law, if you are an employee and you are, told that you have to sort of give evidence like this, oftentimes it can't then be used against you in a court of law. So there's some other tricky things that go along with it, but just on its face, it's about like swearing an oath. Basically, instead of just testifying, saying you're, I guess, essentially held to the truth of what you're saying. And as I read it, it's only when the council's actually investigating a municipal agency. Does that help at all?
I think it does. I think it makes sense.
That's the part that I was trying to saying that, and I wasn't saying as clear as I should. That's the tricky part, right? Is that I think that people, myself included, when I first started looking at this, will read Section D and come away thinking that that the council can call anybody in and hold them under oath and conduct that investigation. But this really only applies to municipal officers and municipal agencies.
Right.
There's also a peripheral issue you may want to think about, because you in each instance you're going to have to do it by resolution. And the question came up in the O'Malley investigation, which was about the housing authority, and there were a lot of issues there. The question is whether the housing HABC is a municipal agency. But then on the question of resolution, did it have to go to the mayor for signature? Could the mayor veto the resolution? And that was one of the.
That's an interesting. I like that question. That's an interesting question.
It went move.
Okay. Well, I think we've got an answer to this. But I guess the bottom line is too, it isn't something that has been used, or if it has been used, it's not in recent memory.
1997 maybe was the last time.
So we're going to get into the last section of Article 3, which is General Counsel, and that's our own Aaron DeGraffenreich's world. I'm going to go through it. Starting with paragraph A, the City Council may employ the services of an independent General Counsel. The selection and employment of the General Counsel shall be consistent with this section, as supplemented by the rules of the City Council. And at the moment, I don't know that there are rules that relate to you, Aaron. Are there rules? Have we made some since?
No, there are no rules in the council rules about this position.
Yeah. Anyways, we can do it if they can do it if they want to. So qualifications. The General Counsel must be a member of the Maryland Bar, must meet all other qualifications for the position set by the rules of the City Council. During his or her term, is subject to the rules of the City Council and that generally governs officers and employees of the council. And during her or his term, may not engage in any other practice of law unless it is uncompensated in the nature of community service, such as pro bono advice or to or representations of indigent clients, or it is on behalf of her or himself or her or his parent, spouse, or child. Term. The General Counsel serves at the pleasure of the City Council. As the City Council directs, the General Counsel shall provide independent legal advice to the City Council, its committees and subcommittees, assist the City Council in investigations undertaken by the City Council or any of its committees or subcommittees, and generally serve as attorney for the City Council. The General Counsel's compensation shall be at least equal to that of a full-time chief of the Law Department's General Counsel Division. The Board of Estimates shall annually include in the ordinance of estimates submitted to the city council an amount sufficient to fund the general counsel's compensation and necessary expenses. The amount appropriated for the general counsel's compensation and expenses shall be in addition to and may not supplant be deducted from or serve as a basis for reducing any part of the operating budget of the city council. So, discussion. Do we have, Aaron or Hillary, I don't remember any rules of the city council that govern their city council employees or officers? Do we have that?
No, I mean, not in the way that you would think of. I mean, there might be something that says, you know, the clerk shall read whatever, but not that I think, no, not that.
Behavior, duties, that kind of stuff. Yeah, behaviors and duties, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of would be, you know, like ethics code, but that's not rules. That's the, you know, ethics code.
And that's interesting. I assume you are regulated by our ethics code, Aaron.
Right. I mean, and I just, you know, this is definitely an aside, but, you know, the people who, you know, help the council work on legislation, you know, and they're public servants. They are bound by the ethics code as well. So, but like I said, it's not rules like what, you know, like Hillary said. That's an actual statute and legislation.
Gotcha. All right. Any questions, discussions about 12?
Yeah, I think it's really important.
Language here that's caused you problems?
Reading it. You know, is that a question? Have Hillary and Aaron, any language there in this section that has been problematic?
Not that I know of, no. I mean, I guess it's now been about half my time at the city. There's been a general counsel for the city council, and half the time there isn't. But I mean, lawyers work throughout government, so I don't find it to be kind of complicating at all. And you know, Aaron's fabulous in what he does, so we don't really have any problems that I can think of that's related to this language or anything like that. I mean, maybe Aaron finds them, but I can't really find them.
No, there's no problems with it. There is the only thing that I occasionally have to clarify for some people is in section D under duties, number 3, is shall generally serve as attorney for the city council. Occasionally have to explain that that is limited by the reality that it's only the solicitor and the law department who can represent the mayor and city council in controversies. So it's a little bit of a misnomer to say that, you know, I'm generally the attorney for city council, because I don't do everything the term attorney usually encompasses. It's, you know, more attorney advisor than, you know, sort of full representation.
Yeah, and I would just say, you know, that stems actually much more in part from the fact that, like, the city council isn't a legal entity. It can't sue and be sued on its own. And that's pretty much like every other legislature in America. You know, it's like one government and they have branches, an executive, judicial, legislative. So you know, but many legislatures across the country employ lawyers and they get great legal advice. It's just, you know, you never really see, you know, U.S. Congress versus Smith. I mean, it's really, you know, U.S. government versus someone, and that encompasses the executive, legislative, judicial. So it's not really a factor of this language. There's nothing you could really do to change this language that would change that reality. But in terms of giving advice, you know, I haven't seen anything in this language that has been problematic.
Yeah.
Okay, we are done with Article 3. And at this point, since I cut that earlier discussion off, we can continue that discussion, or we can just basically adjourn for the evening. Usually at this time, we would have, I don't know, besides John Willis, I don't know that we have any other members of the public here. Do we at this point?
So yes, well, I'm not sure if he's still on.
John is a commissioner, I think.
So John is a commissioner for one, and the only other,
John is a commissioner. I'm missing. I'm sorry, John.
there was a
All right.
gentleman from the
He's gone.
public,
Yeah, he's gone.
Mr. Renault, who dropped off. He's not on anymore.
Okay. Well, look. Well, let's, because it's early, let's have do we have a discussion on where we're going with Article 3, how we're going to proceed? At this point, I have a number of issues that I have to talk to staff about that have arisen in this conversation today. I'm going to have to report back the next time. And we also wanted the next time we meet, which will be in 2 weeks, we're a little light on the particular day at this point, a little uncertain. We also want to at least take a look at these new amendments about redistricting. That's what I know is on the table at this point. Is there any other conversation that we would like to have now?
Well, the dean also thought we were going to do some comparative research on the city council president, whether it was appointed or elected by peers or elected directly. I mean, I think
Right.
we just ought to answer the question. And
No, you're absolutely You're right. We need to, as you pointed out earlier, John, we needed, because it's going to come up. Who else is doing this? We need to have that down. Assuming that we go forward with this out of the committee. Once again, I'm gonna rely on staff to get that kind of information for us. And that's a conversation that we'll have in the next few days or so. Let me tell you, as the commission, as far as I'm aware, one of the committees has not met yet, and that is the administrative, the executive branch committee has not met yet. Not quite certain what's happening over there. Been trying to get answers and not coming up with anything. So Roger, one of your suggestions, what goes over there, you were talking about the mayoral change, that is on hold. And I know that's a fairly big topic. And I am a little concerned that we have just a limited time to do this work. And there's a lot of ideas on the table, as we just heard, just from this meeting itself. And I was thinking this is an easy chapter, but we have a whole bunch of stuff in here that sort of surprises me. So, any discussion about anything anybody wants to raise at this particular time? Okay.
I need help with my home computer getting on the WebEx. I don't know whether I need a technology person or just need a tutorial, but my home computer for some reason doesn't get the webinar. And I don't know if it's a software issue or my inadequacy or what, but if somebody from staff could work with me, that would be appreciated.
In fact, I see Michael Wells on, and he is our technology guy, as I understand. Michael, are you there?
He's doing the broadcast for City Cable. So
Okay. Well, let's
do it now. Sometime in the next week or two is fine. Just before the next meeting.
Yeah, let's see if we can take care of that. That's an important deal. And
Yeah, I say, Victor,
said,
that can work with Mr. Willis and maybe BSIT to help.
okay,
yeah.
wonderful. If you take responsibility for that, Aaron, that'll be wonderful. That'll be great. Appreciate
No
that.
problem. Yeah.
And okay, Roger, are you signaling you want to talk?
Yeah, I just had one question, and it's more of and maybe I should understand this a little bit more, but I just thought I would ask. So imagine a proposal like the one that I made about the city council president, or any of these proposals. I was just kind of curious about internal governance of how we would decide what to advance and what to not to advance is one thing, and then secondly, I think I'm imagining. And again, I'm not going to be offended or at all hurt if the commission felt that this wasn't one to move forward. But then I was just thinking also about the process afterwards. I think if we advance recommendations and we advance those forward, I'm imagining that at that point in time, any and or all of our recommendations are going to be there to be debated by the public and the council and the mayor. And I think in some of these cases that's really a good thing, even if they don't end up washing out. It's an opportunity for us to think about why we have the structure of government that we do, and what the future of that structure of government should look like. And but anyway, I guess what I'm thinking about is would we vote on a subcommittee not to move something forward or to move something forward, or then does the whole commission vote to advance or not advance? I just hadn't thought that far ahead.
Yeah, no, my thought is that we will recommend something out of this committee, and then that goes to the commission. It's an interesting point about whether we raise the things that we didn't recommend up to the entire commission. And I guess if the committee would like to do that, we can certainly do that. But the first point is we will take a formal vote about passing things on to the full commission to discuss. And if there's sentiment to raise the issues that we are not, listing the things that we didn't recommend, we can do that. I see the point you're making though, Roger, which is basically it's an education. This is an opportunity for an education and a broader education about, how the city government operates and things of that nature. And I think that's a great comment and a great idea. So that's
my reaction would be, you say these are recommended, and you could say on the other topics, considered but not recommended. And then you want to have available the comparative data or whatever, because somebody's going to raise them over the next 4 months. So whether it's just a media inquiry or a citizen group,
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I think that's a great idea too, John. And the other thing that I was thinking about is I'm just imagining that there will be some deliberation on these. And like, for instance, at our last meeting, I know that Reverend Little expressed some deep concern about my proposal, and I think it's important to be able to have some space to talk about that. I can imagine we would at the commission level. And then it may or may not advance from there. But I was just thinking forward about the process. I didn't. Thanks. It sounds like there would be a vote at the commission level of each of these recommendations as to whether they go forward or not.
Right. And I hope to have the language. If we're going forward with something, I want to have the language that we're proposing for the amendment, so everybody knows the details of what we have in mind. And that really that's the kind of the interesting part when we start saying, well, we really want to recommend X, and it's going to say this, the details, that's the interesting stuff's in the details. So so the timetable on this, I'm thinking that we are done as a committee somewhere in mid-March with recommendations to the commission. And so we have April for the commission to basically debate these particular points. That has to be sort of discussed with the other committees, but at this point, that's my idea about when our committee officially ends its work somewhere in mid-March. And as I said, that's about 4, maybe 5 meetings from now. So it's a very short time to put things together. But if we have some nice pithy ideas, like I think we were talking about in this particular meeting, that's gonna be good for us. There are so many things we can play around with, but the big ideas that are being kicked around today are the things that ultimately I think we probably want to hang our hat on. Ultimately, big ideas, not the small stuff. But I'm happy to entertain anybody's thoughts along these lines. Roger, you want to go?
It's a question I view this in the next several weeks of trying to come up with some specificity on the ideas, some specific language. So for models.
Yeah, let's hope to get that the next time around, John. Let's hope to have that language available so we can start slicing, because at this point we move on to another section, another article, and we're going to lose the momentum of what we have here. So I'd like to have this next discussion, maybe a little bit of both, a little bit. John?
Where are we going next? What article are you doing next?
Yeah, it's going to be the OIG's article, which I think is Article 10. There's about 5 pages in there of detail. And as you know, the OIG has been in the news a lot.
Right.
So I don't know how that discussion is going to go.
Yeah, here in Baltimore County too. So.
In Baltimore County as well, exactly. And I'm going to reach out to the OIG, or I'm going to have staff reach out to the OIG and ask if they have issues that they would like us to discuss. I don't know if they're going to do that, but I want to have that, give them the opportunity to discuss those things. Also, we are going to be sending something out to all the council members, asking if they have interest in any topic that they would like to present to the commission and to the various committees, that we'll have a list from that. That has to come out pretty quick because, as I say, the time's being short. So that's something I need to work on. Okay. Okay, so if we're done with discussions tonight, I think we'll just adjourn. Aaron, if you could write up the notes on this thing, and you know the format, the format that we've used the last time around, and I know you have a copy of that.
Yep, I've been taking notes in it now. Oh wait, and one thing we should do before we break up is that's a note in the template is to open the floor for public comment.
Right. We can now open the floor for public comment. Are there any members of the public here?
I don't see any members of the public. I said earlier, Renault Brown was on, but I don't see him in here any longer.
Okay. With
So
that in
not seeing
mind,
any members of the public, I'll note that the chair opened for comments from the public at 7:26 p.m. And yeah, we can. I'll leave it to you to adjourn.
okay. Well, we stand adjourned at this point. I guess it's 7:27 if we actually need a time. So thank you all. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, and thank you it's really been a good conversation tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay dry.